Today's guest is Michael Alf. Michael is a dynamic voice reshaping how leaders and organizations adapt in today's rapidly evolving landscape. Michael is the founder of Alf Global Services, a human centric AI and automation consultancy guiding organizations through digital transformation. Plus, he also co founded Beyond the Obvious, a boutique advisory that blends advanced tech insight with modern leadership. Double plus, he's a certified high performance coach, speaker, workshop facilitator, and author. Michael, it's an honor to have you. Welcome to ROI from AI.
It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. I really look forward to our conversation.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. And doing my research on you, quite the extensive experience. You started your career in the German Armed Forces before heading down under to work in the IT space. I'd love to know, was the tech industry something you always wanted to get into, or did it happen suddenly?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And honestly, I started with the Commodore 64 a long time ago, and I was hooked by the technology. So I'm also a techie, but I'm also on the business side. I'm always been between those two worlds, and I think that's that red thread throughout my career. I wouldn't say I'm not a coder. So I did coding when I was very young. I did actually code some real applications, but then moved more towards the business and leadership part of it. But always a strong heart also for the technology. And even now, I do like building my own agents and workflows and things like that. And of course, working then with businesses to kind of build bigger things.
Yeah, it sounds like you've always maintained a synergy with leadership and with technology. It's a very interesting combination that I feel like we don't really see all too often. How do you marry those two throughout your career and make sure that there's a really nice balance?
When I look back, I always had roles when I was still kind of working for organizations, companies, starting with the armed forces. In that time, I was actually a communication signaling officer, meaning I had a large team running the communication network, for an air defense group. So that was very technical. I had the experts, and I had to learn to lead experts. And for me, it was always like having a solid, good understanding what's going on. The same then in consulting. Said yes, not going into every detail, but if you want to propose, let's say a 10, 20 million or even $1 million dollars deal to a client, you need to understand what you're doing. That's at least my belief and my experience. And the same here. So I'm very passionate about people and leading people and helping them along the way, and also having that technology and really bringing those together, having that understanding, that makes it a lot easier to guide them people in the right direction.
Yeah, well, it's quite an amazing and impressive career. And before we get to the nuts and bolts of your career, I have noticed that you're like me, you're a digital nomad. You're now based in Portugal. I've been road tripping Australia and I'm in Queensland at the moment. And I'm loving this lifestyle. I'm feeling very passionate about just having that sort of freedom. I would love to know what inspired you to also adopt this digital nomad lifestyle, and how do you think that feeds into your entrepreneurial spirit, so to speak?
Yeah, I think that's part of the life story. So I'm now a German Australian. So we lived 10 years in Australia in Melbourne, and then we decided to move away, kind of temporarily initially. But then the pandemic hit, and that was for us. So that's my wife and I at the time. Really the trigger to try out the digital nomad life. So we lived in, I don't know, probably 6, 7 countries during the pandemic, traveled around, went back to Australia when the borders opened, spent time there, and then decided to come back to Portugal. So our life is global per definition. And for us, we really want to bring that with our entrepreneurial activities to be able to live both kind of in Australia and in Europe, wherever it is. So that's kind of, we try to bring together both the personal life and the entrepreneurial business life.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm a little jealous. I've been eyeing off Portugal as a potential place to situate myself, but felt like I need to see Australia first. There's so much here, but yeah, now I'm kind of convinced that Portugal could be the next place for me.
Yeah, you're always welcome here in Portugal. It's a wonderful place. I can show you around a little bit, and it's a great tech place as well. Yeah, so especially Lisbon is a real tech hub, both in AI, which I think we'll talk about, and other technologies as well.
Yeah, well, pivoting to AI, your own company, Alf Global Services, you emphasize a human-centered approach to AI, and I would say most lay people outside of AI would think that AI is very anti-human. So how do you define human-centered, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so when you look at AI and I'll take as an example the World Economic Forum Future of Work report from the beginning of the year, which clearly indicates the future skills are both soft skills, so that's people skills, and AI skills. So I think to succeed, you need to have both, and organizations need to embrace both components to it. And it is a journey. It's still early stages of this AI-driven and especially generative AI-driven journey. So it's early to say kind of what works and what doesn't work. There's a lot of companies who haven't really started yet and looked a little bit into it. What is really important, because when you change the company and the processes, it is about taking people on a journey. Yeah, so therefore the people and the humans have to be in the center of it. And the question is, how can you enrich and enable people with AI technologies? Yes, there's also a space where you might have a reduction of kind of work necessary in people. Usually what we see in organizations, that is not the main focus. Yeah, it's really about how to enhance, how to take kind of some of the day-to-day work which you don't want to do away, how to be more efficient as well, and how to focus more on the soft skill side. Yeah, this is, for example, client interaction, talking to client, talking to key partners, 3D partners. All these things will become a lot more important. So this is how you need to bring it together. Also, when you implement solutions, it's always kind of this term human in the loop is critically important to understand where in this process you need to have human interaction and to ensure the quality. And I think that's a learning process for every single organization.
Yeah, I often find that, like you said, AI can take a lot of the menial tasks or the labor, and that productivity will free us more time to be human, where we can develop skills or we can be more creative or even just having more free time, which I think lends itself to business. So AI comes from us, it comes from humans. It's not always this big, scary thing. There's not going to be a robot uprising, unless you, in your professional opinion, do think there's going to be a robot uprising, in which case I'll grab my baseball bat. But yeah, it seems like AI, because it comes from humans, it needs that human touch. And we have a lot more control over it than I think people think. So what would you say to someone that is very fearful and reticent of AI, especially from a business perspective, that maybe is curious, but is kind of overwhelmed with a little bit of terror, I could say?
Mm. It's a good conversation to have, an important one. One of the things I would say, everyone is to some extent overwhelmed. Even me, where I spend probably 90% in AI, I feel overwhelmed, and this is because of the speed of the development. That's normal. So it's more an approach to be open and curious, and to embrace things and to almost reduce to something you can capture and grab. And there's this kind of three layer model. So the layer one is really personal productivity. So how can you use the tools in the right way to become better in what you're doing? And for me, it's always like, because I'm asked that question, become good at one tool, yeah, be it ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini as the three big ones. But become really good at it. Yeah, become really good at prompting so that you benefit from that both in your professional life and in your private life as well. And then you have that next level, which is process improvement, and that's for companies looking at how to improve processes. And this is really going step by step, taking kind of one step at a time. The most important thing is really that openness and curiosity and flexibility, because it will impact everything over time. Yeah, so therefore you have to go on that journey and be open to the journey and focus more on the opportunities it provides, then the risks. Yes, of course, handling risks is important and privacy is important. All these questions, I always say we often over focus on this on the negative side, um, whilst basically almost ignoring the opportunities and the positive sides. So having this open mind and focus on the things where it can really help you both in your job and in your private life. I think that's kind of that first step, because then you go and gain this level of confidence, and a certain level of trust. You also learn where the borders are, where it gets wrong, and you can kind of handle it a lot better.
Yeah, I love that you've got a psychological approach to AI, and it's obviously something that's very technologically based, very sound advice, and it's something you're obviously qualified to talk about. You've got tailored workshops, you do a lot of professional development, maintenance support. I would love to know, do you have any use cases from some of your leadership that you can share with us and how you've really been able to instill growth in some of these professionals
Mhm.
you're working with?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Beyond the Obvious, we developed a simulation which helps and guides leaders, executives, teams through 13 business scenarios, and that really helps embracing and better understanding what is possible. And the feedback is really, really extraordinary valuable, because it's not about tools, it's not about technology, it's actually about understanding what the impact is, what you can do, and learn from each other. So we are basically going through these scenarios, and in each scenario, you have three options where you have to decide which options you go for. And what is interesting, you then start this debate and the discussion. And this is kind of, people learn more from each other from the discussion, because they need to convince the other person that their view is right and the other way around. So therefore, you have to explain kind of how AI works in this process, and what it can do. This is a fascinating exercise, and it really takes kind of the team on to the next level. From there, you can then kind of explore more specifically, what is kind of what's in for them, and then really develop these different use cases. Yeah, and they are both operational, they're in the back office, they're in procurement, tender management, in documents. So we have so many opportunities then to explore on this foundation. I think this lays the foundation.
Yeah, and your work at Beyond the Obvious, you are a high performance coach and you're certified as such from the High Performance Institute. I'm going to get some free advice. Feel free to invoice me after. But if I'm wanting to get into leadership and really advocate for myself, what are some of these high performance habits that you think make up a good leader?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And so the high performance coaching which I'm doing is based on the High Performance Institute and their research, on specific high performance habits. Clarity is a key one. We're not going through all of them, but they have the biggest impact. So clarity is really knowing what you want, in each area of your life, and that sounds easy. The interesting thing is, when we work together, in one-on-one or in a group, it actually becomes a lot more challenging. And the role of the coach is really challenging you, in your perspectives, and go deep, in these conversations. So that's kind of part of the coaching. So clarity is one. Energy is an interesting one. How do you maintain your energy and keep that up? Productivity is in one, and there's three more. So that's kind of gives you kind of this initial view and perspective, where kind of you really focus on those high performance habits, and they will really help you to go to that next level.
Yeah, incredible. Okay, I'm writing that down. Energy, clarity. I love to book a session with you, but I also want to zoom out and look to the future. You're very involved in the AI space, obviously, and this is a question I ask a lot of people, and sometimes the answer is just I don't know. So feel free to say I don't know, but I would love to know from you, really generally speaking, how do you see the AI space evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
I would say it's an important question to ponder on. And when we go back 2.5 years, hardly anyone talked about ChatGPT and generative AI and what is coming. So everyone who thinks they are an expert, I would make a question mark, and that includes me. Yeah, so of course, because we do not know what is going to happen. We can't know, because otherwise, I mean, if you kind of claim to know, I mean, you need to be a billionaire because you then kind of knew that ChatGPT was coming. There's an interesting reason behind that, because what we're seeing is an exponential development. And in exponential development, it's pretty much impossible to see on the timeline, which is horizontal, what is actually happening, because everything happens in a very short period of time. That's a very kind of academic almost answer to it. I would say the relevance and importance of AI will increase. We will need to figure out how to live with it. We need to answer questions like, well, is it really intelligent or not? Well, that's a big question mark. We need to rethink some of the things we think about them humans and our work. And that's all kind of going to happen. It is an interesting ride. It's an interesting, exciting journey. I would say I'm more on the positive side. It's not a dystopian future. There are risks, but I'm very confident that we as a human race are able and capable and also willing to take the best out of it. And if you are open and curious and flexible on that journey, I think you can actually benefit, especially over the next couple of years, where we see this development.
Yeah, it's exciting that we don't know in a way. That's the through line I've seen with hosting this podcast, is that not having an answer is also an answer. And that can be very daunting for people. It can also be very exciting, but you're right. If there's a current AI expert that just time travels 5 years in the future, they might not be an expert anymore. So a big space of development. I'm excited to see where it goes over the next 5 to 10 years. I do want to end though on one of the most important questions of the podcast. My final question is, what is your biggest tip for a return on investment using AI?
I would say invest in yourself. Learn. I mean, I'm just to give you an idea, I'm doing at the moment a certification on a great platform, Mind Studio. I'm doing another certification on agentic AI. I just read another book, The Principles of AI Agents. I'm reading another AI book. So it's like you really need to learn and embrace that, because it's clear this is kind of where you then position yourself, and then you can decide if you want to invest in kind of Nvidia and co, or invest into your business, or invest into your career step. There's different pathways. I can't tell that. What I can and what I'm convinced about is you need to invest yourself, get better, and really understand what's going on.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. I love the double spin on the word investment and turning that into self-investment. Michael, all of your advice today has been very sound, incredible career and an amazing speaker, excellent coach, all the credentials. I look forward to you coming down under. But for today, thank you so much for joining me on ROI from AI.
Thank you, Raj. It was a great pleasure, Brent. Thank you.